Hello, kids. My name is Jerry, and I'm a geologist. A geologist is a type of scientist. A scientist studies and learns all about the world in which we live. Geologists are scientists who study rocks and what's inside the earth. That's right, rocks. From pebbles to stones to boulders, from a grain of sand to the highest mountain, rocks are everywhere. And I want you to know all about rocks, from how they're created to how they're used in people's everyday lives. People used rocks to make the jewels on this crown. People used rocks to make buildings, walls, and streets. A sculptor carved a big rock to make this sculpture of Abraham Lincoln. Geologists use rocks to learn about the earth. In the ancient Greek language, the word geo means earth and ology means the study of. When we combine these word parts, we have geology, or just geology, which is the study of the earth. Since the earth is mostly made of rock, we geologists spend most of our time studying rocks. Many of the rocks we see on the surface of the earth, from mountains down to pebbles, are created by incredible forces at work deep inside the earth. Thus, geologists study not only rocks, but the forces at work inside the earth and on the earth's surface. We study the whole earth. Some scientists believe the history of the earth begins a little over 4.5 billion years ago. That's a long time ago, a very, very, very long time ago. Before that, some scientists believe the materials that now make up Earth were orbiting or floating around our newly formed sun as billions of little bits and pieces. Over many, many years, it is believed by some scientists that these floating bits and pieces gradually stuck together until they made up Earth, as well as its neighbor, the Moon, and the other planets. When it was newly formed, Earth was basically one big ball of hot melted rocks. Over time, however, some of these materials cooled and hardened, allowing the planet Earth to become what it is today. Maybe you already know that Earth is a planet. Earth is one of 8 major planets that orbits the sun. You know the names of any of the other planets? I do. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Like the other planets in the solar system, Earth is trapped in the gravitational pull of the sun. This causes Earth to orbit or revolve around the sun. It takes about 1 year, about 365 days, for Earth to complete an orbit around the sun. The Earth's orbit around the sun is not the only way Earth moves in space, however. This map shows the Earth's north and south poles. The north and south poles are imaginary points at the northernmost and southernmost parts of the Earth. The axis of rotation is like an imaginary line or stick going right through the Earth at the north and south poles. There is not really a stick running through the Earth around which it turns. The axis is an imaginary line around which Earth rotates. Now, the Earth rotates or spins in the same way that a globe spins, on its axis. It takes 1 day or 24 hours for Earth to make one complete rotation. The map also shows the equator, an imaginary line around the middle of the Earth. The equator divides the Earth into 2 equal halves. The area along the equator receives the most direct sunlight and is therefore generally the warmest area on the surface of the Earth. Earth is sphere-shaped, like a ball, and it is surrounded by a thick blanket of air called an atmosphere where clouds float around. Most of the Earth's surface is covered with water in the form of the 5 oceans: Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, Arctic, and Antarctic. And between these oceans there is land in the form of 7 continents: North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. People haven't always known that the Earth is round or that it rotates on its axis as well as orbits the sun. They haven't always known that there are 5 oceans and 7 continents, or that most of the surface is covered in water. It has taken hundreds of years for scientists and explorers to develop all the knowledge about the Earth that I just described in the last few minutes. But this barely begins to scratch the surface of what we now know about the history of the Earth. There are 3 important words you need to keep in mind whenever you are thinking about geology, which is the study of the Earth. Heat is the first. You can feel heat from a flame or from the sun on a sunny day. Heat causes many changes to the Earth. The second word is pressure, like the force you use when you push on something. Pressure, or the force of weight, also causes many changes to the Earth. And time is the third important geology word to remember. To understand geology, you need to think about time in a whole new way. Forget about minutes, hours, and days. These amounts of time don't mean much in geology. Geologists think in terms of many, many years. It takes a long time for pressure and heat to do what they do. The Grand Canyon, located in Arizona, provides a lot of clues about the Earth's formation and history. It took millions of years for the rushing water in the river to carve through the rocks to make this canyon. No other place on Earth allows me to see and study so many different layers of rock at the same time. The rock on the upper rim of the Grand Canyon is estimated by some scientists to be about 230 million years old, whereas the rock layers down at the very bottom of the canyon are estimated to have formed over 2 billion years ago. That rock is half as old as the Earth is believed to be itself. And remember, heat, pressure, and time are the main factors of geology. If you understand those 3 words, then you are ready to move ahead and learn many things about the history of the Earth.